How in the world did a guy like me end up in the world of real estate? And let me just start off by saying that it is not the typical way or the common way that most people would get into the industry. For me, it was never a goal or a dream, an aspiration that I had as a young kid. It was none of those things. For me, the career path that I had envisioned for myself after college was that I would go to Silicon Valley and work for a tech company, whether it was Google, Facebook. That was the vision that I had for myself. So how did I go from having that vision to ending up in real estate? So for context, growing up, I actually got to play a little part in the real estate game, mostly in the investing side, with my dad, who actually owned a couple of rental properties and still does to this day. But at the time, I didn't really see him as an investor. I just saw him as my dad having these properties. I slowly, over time, started to understand a little bit of the game. Not the full picture, but part of the game. And so once I got to college and I decided that my career path was going to be, working as a marketing director at some tech company, that eventually, with the income that I produced from that career, I would end up pouring that into buying real estate, rental properties. In some way down the road, I would end up doing that. So fast forward to graduating college. It was the start of the pandemic. It had just began in 2020, I believe. Nobody was hiring. I had just graduated. People were getting laid off. It was one of the hardest times, I think, at least in my opinion, for people that were just graduating to get into the workforce, essentially. And so I started reaching out to people that I knew at the tech companies, trying to get my foot in the door, was making connections on LinkedIn, reaching out to all my professors and staff, people that were working at the college at the time. But even then, that didn't get my foot in the door. I told myself, okay, I need to get something in the meantime to pay my bills. I still have to eat. So I started doing landscaping with one of my cousins. And in the afternoons, I was doing DoorDash. It was honestly a tough point not being able to say to other people, hey, I just graduated college and I have this amazing career that I just got, this amazing job that I love. I couldn't say that. So I was ashamed of myself not having to show something for it. I have this degree, I have this plaque, but it doesn't mean anything because I haven't done anything with it. So I literally went through months working those two jobs. In the mornings, throughout the day, landscaping, and then I would get home, eat dinner, and go out for a couple hours doing DoorDash. Until there came a point where it hit the lowest point of my life, I think. The lowest point because there was a moment that I will never forget. We were cleaning the house of this gorgeous home. I mean, just from the looks of it, it seemed like rich people lived here. And I remember that day so vividly. It was pouring rain. I was completely soaked from the water. My hands were dirty, cut, blisters. And I remember thinking to myself, why am I here? What in the world did I do to end up in this position? I have a bachelor's degree in business and marketing, yet I'm here on the ground, pulling weeds, cutting the grass. Where did I go wrong? And sometimes I think it takes a moment of pain like that to really pull a trigger inside of you. It's almost like a gut punch, like you gotta make a change. No one else is gonna do it for you. And so in part of that, I'm actually thankful that it happened that way, because if it wasn't for that moment, I seriously probably would have still been in that position. So that same day, I remember going back home. I didn't do DoorDash that day, and I went online and researched all the possible jobs that were at least easy to get into with the background that I had. And in doing my research, one of the main things that kept coming up was real estate, specifically real estate agent. It was displaying it in a way where it made it seem like you would get into this industry, you can be your own boss, have your own schedule, make a lot of money, have the potential to make a lot of money. And that was something that attracted me instantly. I didn't even think about it. I was like, I think this is going to be the one. I already have an interest in real estate because of my dad, and I know I'm going to eventually get into it. Might as well get into the industry from being a real estate agent and have that career. So I went through the courses, took the exam, and got licensed. And lo and behold, I was a licensed real estate agent. Yet I didn't have any background into the real estate game. So I ended up joining a real estate team to kind of get myself oriented and learn, the inside and outs of real estate. Being a real estate agent in this industry, in this market specifically. I think I ended up selling my first house 3 months after I got licensed. So it was a while afterwards. It took a lot of work, but I made it happen. And from there, it was just a snowball effect. I put in the work. I was grinding day and night. During the week and on weekends, you bet I was working. So after a year of being on a team, I got the fundamentals, I got the basics. I learned a lot from the team leader. Greatly appreciate him, Bill Davis. After that, I made a transition into going as a solo agent. It was definitely a challenging move to make because, once again, I was still very new into the industry, but I took the basics and the foundation that I had, and I basically wanted to grow further, right? How can I grow both myself and my business now as a solo agent? So for an entire year as a solo agent, I was selling homes. I made the connections. I had the referrals from past clients. I was building my network. And during that time as well, one of my best friends, also in the industry, who's also a realtor, I saw them buy a house and flip it. I hadn't heard anything about any of that, fixing and flipping, but I saw him do it. And after talking to him, I saw the potential that it had as far as making it your business and getting some pretty nice profits from it. And once again, I was attracted to it. And not too long after that, I pulled the trigger into buying my first property to fix and flip. And I think that moment when I did that first flip, it opened up the door to a completely whole new world that I just fell in love with. The process of transforming this distressed, ugly house into this incredible home that I can now go and sell to a new home buyer that they can now enjoy. That whole transformation process, I completely fell in love with, which today I continue to do and want to scale that business up. How can we grow and scale and do more deals like that? So looking back and kind of connecting the dots here, it was because that I decided to become a realtor that ended up leading me into the fix and flip world. I personally think it would have not worked out if it was the other way around, or just removing completely the realtor side. I needed to be a realtor first in order to learn the game and understand the transaction process to then get into the fix and flip game. And by now having those two things in place, trust me when I say that I have a full overview perspective, understanding, and great knowledge into what goes on, not just buying a property, not just selling a property when it comes to a real estate agent, but also what happens in the middle, construction, rehabbing a property, and then also finding different methods of financing a property, whether it's straight cash, whether it's a traditional loan like an FHA or conventional loan, or using hard money loans, more of an investment type of loan. It opened up my world completely, and I'm forever grateful it happened that way. And one of the newest things now in this industry that actually just recently happened in the last month, I acquired my first rental property, a duplex. That was actually brought to me by, once again, the not so conventional way of doing things. I didn't go out and research and find this deal. It was brought to me by a very close family friend of mine. And so now I can say I'm a full real estate investor where I have the knowledge and expertise into fixing and flipping. I now own my own rental property, a duplex, and then altogether, I'm still a real estate agent. I'm a licensed realtor to help people buy and sell real estate. Now that I have this fix and flip business, I have the real estate agent business, and I have now my first rental property. Where do we go from here? Where do I take this? Well, the idea is to scale that business up as far as fixing and flipping, continuing to do more deals, and how we can scale that business. I will continue to be a realtor because I love the idea of helping, especially the first-time home buyers. I personally believe there's a lack of knowledge, especially in our communities, where we're not taught. We don't know what it takes to actually buy a house. And if I can showcase and teach people that it's not as hard as we think, and there's different ways to make that possible, that dream possible of owning your own home, that is something that I want to continue doing alongside my fix and flip business. Those two businesses provide and create the capital from the income, the profit that I make from that business. Now you want to take that capital and deploy it into buying rental properties to grow a massive real estate portfolio. That's really the next, I think, chapter, the next phase in my life. Really start to create the long-term wealth. Because don't get me wrong, fixing and flipping is amazing. You can make some great money, some big money. But once again, it's not forever. Once you do a flip, you have to go out and do another one because the money just ends, it stops. Whereas buying a rental property, you buy it, it starts creating this passive income for you. And I want to be careful using the word passive because nothing is ever passive. You still have to put in the work, both to acquire it, but then also to run that business. It's a business. Buying rental properties, multifamily, is a business. And I think it's a big misconception that people have. Today, at 26 years old, and looking back, I get reminded of the famous quote that Steve Jobs said, "You can't connect the dots moving forward. It's only when you look back that you realize how all the dots actually connect with one another." And that has been so true in my life. I didn't know at the time, maybe 5 years back, 10 years back, what I was doing then, how it would ultimately connect with what I'm doing now. It plays a role, directly or indirectly. Each of the things that I've done across my life has definitely impacted what I do now and ultimately what I plan to do in the future. Of course, goals, dreams, plans change because we change, we evolve. But at least for the next 5 years, I do have a very concrete vision plan that I want to execute and move forward with. And I'm extremely excited to do that. This industry never stops growing. It always keeps you on your toes. There's always laws and new policies changing. And if you're in this industry, you have to learn to adapt. I personally don't think that I'll ever retire. For me, I'm enjoying my life doing the work that I get to do in this industry. That for me is very fulfilling. Build a life you never want to retire from. If the work that I'm doing now and what I'm building now is something that I love so deeply, why retire from it? If anything, how can I do more of it and bring other people along on this journey to help them and all of us? It might sound completely biased when I say that real estate is the greatest thing in the world, but personally it is, because it has completely changed my life and I will forever be grateful for it. I am an open book. If you have questions, reach out and I will be more than happy to help you. As always, you get one life, so make it count. Peace.